Tom stared at his girlfriend across the small coffee table in his apartment, his coffee growing cold and forgotten. The morning sunlight streaming through his Seattle apartment windows seemed to dance strangely around Lisa, giving her pale skin an almost purple shine. He blinked several times, wondering if he had heard her correctly. "You're a what now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lisa fidgeted with her cup, her otherworldly beauty suddenly making much more sense to Tom. "I'm a Nyx, an energy-feeding alien, what some Earth cultures would call a succubus." She looked up at him, her eyes shifting from their usual green to a deep violet. "I've been meaning to tell you for months, but there's never really a good time to tell your boyfriend you're an alien who feeds on emotional and sexual energy." Tom leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his messy brown hair. His life as a software developer had been perfectly normal until 5 minutes ago. He had met Lisa at a tech convention 6 months earlier, and everything had been wonderful. Well, almost everything. "Is that why I'm always so tired after we—" He trailed off, his cheeks reddening. Lisa laughed, the sound like tiny bells. "Yes, but I'm very careful. I only take a little bit, and humans naturally regenerate emotional energy faster than any species we've encountered. It's part of why I was drawn to you in the first place." She reached across the table and took his hand. "You're like a walking battery of pure emotional energy." Tom looked at their joined hands, noticing for the first time how Lisa's skin seemed to glow faintly where they touched. "So all those times I felt extra tired after our dates. I fed on your excess energy," Lisa admitted, "but I never took more than you could easily replace. Humans are amazing that way. Most species we feed from need weeks to recover from even a small feeding. Humans bounce back in hours." Tom processed this information with surprising calmness. His logical mind started connecting dots. "Is that why you never want to eat much at restaurants? And why you seem to glow after we kiss?" Lisa brightened, clearly relieved at his analytical approach. "Exactly. Physical food is more like a hobby for my species. We eat it for the taste and social aspects, but we don't need it for survival. What we need is emotional energy, especially the kind humans generate during intimate moments. And you're telling me this now because—" Tom left the question hanging in the air. Lisa's expression grew serious. "Because my family found out I'm dating you. They've demanded to meet you." She squeezed his hand tighter. "This is kind of a big deal. My species usually keeps humans as food sources. Dating one is considered very strange." Tom's eyes widened. "Food sources, like cattle. More like honored guests in energy farms, but yes," Lisa said quickly. "It's one reason I left home. I didn't agree with treating sentient beings that way. But you need to understand, Tom, you're the first human to be invited to meet a Nyx family as an equal." Tom took a deep breath, his mind racing with questions. Of all the concerns flooding his thoughts, one rose to the top. "Will your family try to eat me?" Lisa's laugh filled the room again. No. They've promised to treat you as a potential mate, not a food source. Though they might try to sample your energy. You'll need to be prepared for that." Tom nodded slowly, his natural curiosity overtaking his fear. "So, your whole family is like you. Energy-feeding aliens living among humans. We live in cities on a moon orbiting a gas giant." "Actually," Lisa corrected, "I'm just here on what you might call a working vacation, though meeting you changed everything." She looked at him nervously. "Are you freaking out? You seem very calm about all this." Tom smiled for the first time since the revelation began. "Honestly, this explains so much about you that I'm mostly just relieved, though I am a bit nervous about meeting your family." He paused, then added, "Will I need a spacesuit?" Lisa beamed at him, her relief evident in the way her skin brightened. "That's what I love about you, Tom. You always focus on the practical questions." She stood and walked around the table to kiss him. "And no, our ships have artificial atmospheres, but we should start preparing you for the trip. There's a lot you need to learn about Nick's culture before you meet my mother. Tom's hands gripped the cushioned seat as the ship lifted off from a hidden launch facility outside Seattle. His stomach lurched as they accelerated through Earth's atmosphere. Lisa sat beside him, holding his hand and watching his reactions with a mix of concern and amusement. "First spaceflight is always rough," she said softly. "Try to focus on your breathing." The ship, which looked like a sleek silver teardrop from the outside, hummed quietly around them. The interior reminded Tom of a luxury airplane, except for the strange purple crystals that pulsed with light along the walls. Through the large window beside him, he watched Earth shrink into a blue marble. "How long until we reach your home?" Tom asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "About 6 hours," Lisa replied. "Our drive system bends space in ways your scientists haven't discovered yet. Without it, the journey would take years." A tall figure appeared from the front of the ship. Like Lisa, the being had an otherworldly beauty, but their skin was a deeper shade of purple. "First time with a human passenger," they said in perfect English. "I'm Captain Vale. Lisa has told me much about you." Tom tried to stand politely, but found himself floating slightly off his seat. Lisa quickly pressed a button on his chair's arm, and a gentle force pulled him back down. "Gravity takes some getting used to near the drive crystals," the captain explained with a smile. "We'll be passing Jupiter in about an hour. You might want to watch. It's quite a view." After the captain left, Tom turned to Lisa. "You never told me exactly why your family is so interested in meeting me. I mean, surely I'm not the first human to date a Nix." Lisa's expression grew serious. "You are actually, at least officially. Some Nix have had relationships with humans before, but they've kept it secret. My family is important in our society. By openly dating you, I've forced them to either accept it or publicly disown me." Tom felt the weight of her words. "No pressure then," he said with a nervous laugh. "There's something else you should know," Lisa continued. "Humans are considered dangerous by most alien species. Your emotions are incredibly powerful, too powerful for most species to handle. That's why we Nix are the only ones who regularly interact with Earth." As if on cue, the ship passed close to a massive space station. Through the window, Tom could see various alien ships docked at it, but they all kept to one side, leaving a clear space around a small group of human merchant vessels. "They're afraid of us?" Tom asked, surprised. "Not exactly afraid. More like cautious. A human's emotional capacity can overwhelm most species' mental defenses. That's why you're so perfect for us Nix. You generate more emotional energy than we could ever drain." The ship's interior lights dimmed slightly, and a gentle chime sounded. Outside the window, the massive form of Jupiter began to fill their view. Tom gasped at the sight of the giant storm clouds swirling across its surface. "We're approaching our home," Lisa said. "See that bright point near Jupiter's largest moon? That's where my family lives." As they drew closer, Tom could make out what looked like floating cities suspended in the atmosphere of a smaller moon. The structures shimmered with the same purple light as the ship's crystals, forming graceful spires that stretched both up toward space and down into the moon's thick atmosphere. "The Nix worlds," Lisa said proudly. "Our cities float in the electromagnetic fields of the moon. We harvest energy from the gas giant. And," she paused, looking embarrassed, "from our human energy farms." Tom swallowed hard. "And your family runs these farms?" "My mother oversees all Nix operations in this system," Lisa admitted. "That's why this visit is so important. If she accepts you, it could change everything for human-Nix relations. If she doesn't—" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. As their ship began its final approach to the shimmering cities, Tom realized just how much was riding on this meeting. He wasn't just meeting his girlfriend's family. He was potentially changing the future of two species. The landing platform floated among the clouds, connected to the main city by bridges made of pure energy. Tom followed Lisa through the ship's exit, trying not to look down at the swirling gases of the moon's atmosphere far below. The air smelled like lavender and ozone, and his skin tingled with static electricity. "Ready?" Lisa whispered, squeezing his hand. Before Tom could answer, 3 tall figures emerged from the nearest building. Lisa's family moved with an unnatural grace, their feet barely touching the ground. Her mother led the group, her skin a deep royal purple that seemed to pulse with power. Her father followed, pale silver in color, while Lisa's older sister brought up the rear, her skin tone a mix of both parents. "Welcome, human," Lisa's mother said, her voice carrying an echo that made Tom's ears ring. "I am Matriarch Rose, leader of the Nyx Collective." She studied Tom with eyes that shifted through various colors. "You are smaller than the specimens in our farms." Tom fought the urge to step backward. "Thank you for having me, ma'am. I'm Tom. I work in software development on Earth." "Software?" Lisa's father moved forward, his silver skin brightening with interest. "Ah, you mean primitive machine programming. I am Collector James. I oversee our energy harvesting operations." Lisa's sister remained silent, but her gaze felt like it was burning holes through Tom's skull. He noticed small sparks of energy crackling around her fingers. "Come," Matriarch Rose commanded, turning toward the building. "We have prepared a traditional Nyx welcome feast. Though I understand your kind requires physical sustenance, we have adapted the menu accordingly." The interior of the building took Tom's breath away. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with flowing energy patterns. Furniture floated without support, and servants made of pure light moved silently through the rooms. They entered a dining hall where a long table hovered at perfect height. "Please, sit." Collector James gestured to a chair that solidified from energy as Tom approached it. "Tell us how you met Lisa." Tom began telling the story of the tech convention, but he was interrupted by Lisa's sister. "Mother, this is absurd," she said, speaking for the first time. "He's food, not family. We should drain him and be done with it." "Dawn," Lisa snapped, her skin flaring bright with anger. "You promised to behave." Matriarch Rose raised a hand, silencing both daughters. "Peace. The human is our guest. Though I share your concerns, Dawn. Tell me, Tom, what are your intentions with our Lisa?" Tom looked at Lisa, then back at her mother. "I love her," he said simply. "I know I'm just a human, and this is all very strange to me. But I love her, and I want to make her happy." The room fell silent. Tom noticed the light servants had stopped moving, frozen in place. Even the walls seemed to pulse slower. "Interesting," Collector James murmured, holding up a crystal device that hummed when pointed at Tom. His emotional output just spiked dramatically. "These readings, they're unprecedented." Dawn leaned forward, her hostility momentarily forgotten. "That can't be right. Let me see." She snatched the device from her father, her eyes widening at the display. "How is he generating so much energy without depleting?" Matriarch Rose's eyes narrowed. It seems Lisa's reports about human emotional capacity weren't exaggerated. "Tell me, Tom, does it hurt when we feed on your energy?" "No," Tom replied honestly. "I get tired sometimes, but it feels natural with Lisa. Like giving her a part of myself that just grows back stronger." The matriarch exchanged meaningful looks with Collector James. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "we have been approaching human relations too, industrially." "Dawn, your objection is noted but overruled. We will proceed with the traditional courtship trials." Lisa gasped. "Mother, no. The trials are dangerous enough for Nyx suitors. A human couldn't possibly." "The decision is made," Matriarch Rose declared. "If Tom wishes to be part of this family, he must prove himself worthy through the ancient trials. Do you accept this challenge, human?" Tom looked at Lisa's worried face, then back to her family. He sat up straighter in his energy-constructed chair. "I accept." Dawn smiled for the first time, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "Well, at least this will be entertaining. The trials begin tomorrow at dawn." She paused, then added with a smirk, "If you survive the first night in our atmosphere." The morning light of the gas giant filled Tom's guest chamber with swirling purple and orange colors. He hadn't slept much, partly due to nerves, and partly because the air itself seemed to buzz with energy. A soft chime sounded, and a door formed in the previously smooth wall. Dawn stood there, her expression cold. "Time for your trials, human. Follow me." Tom straightened his clothes, a special suit Lisa had given him to help handle the charged atmosphere. "Can you at least tell me what these trials involve?" "3 tests," Dawn replied as they walked through corridors that assembled themselves ahead of them and dissolved behind them. "Emotional control, energy compatibility, and spiritual resonance. No human has ever attempted them. Most Nick suitors fail at least one." She smiled thinly. "I failed my first attempt." They entered a massive circular chamber. The entire Nix family waited there, along with what appeared to be dozens of other noble Nix families. Lisa stood beside her mother, her face tight with worry. She raised her hand as if to wave, but Matriarch Rose stopped her. "No contact with the candidate during trials," the matriarch announced. "Tom of Earth, are you prepared to begin?" Tom nodded, his throat too dry to speak. "The first trial tests emotional control," Collector James explained, stepping forward. "You must maintain emotional stability while we attempt to provoke extreme reactions. Too much emotional output will overload our sensors and result in failure." Dawn's smile widened. "In other words, try not to feel too much, human. Isn't that what you're best at?" Tom took his place in the center of the chamber. Crystal pillars rose from the floor around him, forming a circle. They began to glow, and suddenly Tom felt like his every emotion was being magnified. Images began to appear around him. Projections of his worst fears, his deepest regrets. He saw himself failing, being rejected, losing everything. He saw Lisa being taken away, saw his world crumbling. The visions felt real, tugging at his heart and mind. But then Tom remembered something Lisa had told him about Nick's culture during their flight. They respected emotional control because they had none themselves. They fed on emotions but couldn't regulate them like humans could. Tom closed his eyes and began to breathe slowly, using meditation techniques he'd learned in his college stress management class. Instead of fighting the emotions, he acknowledged them and let them flow through him. The crystal's glow intensified, and the mental assault grew stronger. Now he was seeing beautiful things, moments of joy, victory, love. They were trying to provoke positive emotional spikes as well. "Remarkable," he heard Collector James mutter. "He's maintaining stability." "Increase the intensity," Dawn commanded. The images and feelings grew stronger, but Tom held his center. Minutes passed like hours until finally the crystals dimmed. "First trial complete," Matriarch Rose announced, surprise evident in her voice. "The human has passed." Tom opened his eyes to see the assembled Nicks muttering among themselves. Several were passing what looked like crystal currency between them. Apparently, there had been betting on his performance. "Don't celebrate yet," Dawn said sharply. "The energy compatibility trial is next, and no one survives that without a natural connection to the power fields." But Lisa was beaming despite her sister's words. She shot Tom a quick thumbs up when her mother wasn't looking, a human gesture she'd learned from him. "Rest for 1 hour," Matriarch Rose declared. "Then we begin the second trial." She turned to Tom. "I must admit, human, you have surprised us. But emotional control was always the easiest of the 3 trials. The real challenges lie ahead." As the crowd dispersed, Tom caught snippets of their conversations. Some seemed impressed, others disturbed. He heard one elderly Nick say, "Perhaps we've underestimated these humans." Dawn remained behind after the others left. "Enjoy your small victory," she said. "The energy compatibility trial will show everyone what you really are. Just another temporary battery for us to drain." She turned to leave, then paused. "Though I admit, you're proving to be a more interesting battery than most." Tom watched her go, realizing that in the next world, that might actually count as a compliment. The second trial chamber looked like the inside of a storm cloud. Energy coursed between floating crystals, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with power. Tom stood on a platform in the center, wearing only his protective suit. The watching Nyx floated in bubble-like observation pods around the chamber's edges. Energy compatibility requires you to sync with our power field, Dawn explained, almost gleefully. Most Nyx train for years to achieve this. You have 1 hour. Collector James raised his hand. Begin. Immediately, Tom felt like he was being pulled in 1,000 directions. The energy field around him yanked at something deep inside him, trying to tear his own energy away. He gasped, struggling to stay standing. His readings are erratic, one of the scientific observers called out. He won't last 10 minutes. Lisa bit her lip, watching from her family's observation pod. She had seen other suitors fail this trial. Some had even been injured. But Tom's face showed determination rather than pain. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of fighting against the pull of the energy field, Tom relaxed into it. He remembered how it felt when Lisa fed on his energy. Not a draining sensation, but a sharing one. He tried to recreate that feeling, imagining the energy flowing both ways. Wait, Collector James leaned forward, adjusting his instruments. Something's happening. The storm of energy around Tom began to change. Rather than trying to tear energy from him, it started flowing through him. The crystal's purple light took on a slight golden tinge where it touched him. Impossible, Dawn whispered. He's not just resisting the drain. He's feeding energy back into the field. Matriarch Rose floated down from her pod for a closer look. The instruments in her hands blinked rapidly. In all our centuries of studying humans, we never thought. They're not just batteries. They're generators. Tom opened his eyes, now glowing slightly with the same golden-purple light. He felt incredible, like he could feel every energy current in the room. More than that, he could influence them. Look at the readouts, a scientific observer called excitedly. The human isn't being drained at all. He's in perfect sync with the field, but he's producing more energy than he's consuming. The observation pods erupted with chatter. Tom could hear fragments of amazed conversations. Self-sustaining. Renewable energy source. Could revolutionize our whole system. Even Dawn looked shocked. But how? Humans aren't supposed to be able to generate their own emotional energy like this. Perhaps, Matriarch Rose said thoughtfully. We have been looking at humans all wrong. We saw them as food when we should have seen them as partners. The trial continued for the full hour, but it was clear after the first 20 minutes that Tom had more than passed. When the energy field finally powered down, he remained standing, tired but proud. Lisa rushed to him as soon as the trial officially ended, breaking protocol. Tom, that was amazing. How did you do it? I just thought about how it feels when I'm with you, he said simply. Not being drained, but sharing energy. Growing stronger together. Collector James was rapidly taking notes on a crystal pad. The implications of this are staggering. If humans can generate and share energy like this, our whole society might need to change. The third trial, Dawn began, but Matriarch Rose cut her off. We'll proceed tomorrow, as is tradition, the matriarch declared. But I believe we have all learned something important today. She turned to address the assembled crowd. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our relationship with humanity. As the Nyx filed out of the chamber, still buzzing with excitement over what they'd witnessed, Tom caught Dawn looking at him differently. No longer with disgust, but with curiosity. You're still not good enough for my sister, she said, but without her previous venom. But I admit I'm interested to see what you'll do in the spiritual resonance trial tomorrow. Lisa squeezed Tom's hand. One more trial, she whispered, and you're already changing their whole worldview. Tom nodded, tired but determined. He had proven humans could do more than just provide energy. They could be true partners to the Nyx. Now he just had to survive one final challenge to prove he deserved to be part of their family. Tom woke to the sound of urgent whispers outside his chamber. It was still hours before his final trial, but something was clearly wrong. He crept closer to the energy-formed wall, which had become slightly transparent, allowing him to see the shadows of figures arguing outside. "We cannot allow this to continue," a voice he didn't recognize hissed. "If word spreads about the human's abilities, our entire feeding system will be questioned. The old ways must be preserved." Another voice agreed. "Better to have an unfortunate accident during the final trial than risk everything we've built." Tom's heart raced as he recognized the next voice. Dawn's. "As much as I dislike him, what you're suggesting is against our laws. The trials are sacred. Your sister has already corrupted our traditions by bringing him here," the first voice countered. "We're simply protecting our way of life." The shadows moved away, but their words left Tom cold. He wasn't surprised when his chamber door silently formed a few minutes later, revealing Lisa looking worried. "We have to get you out of here," she whispered. "The Conservative Council is planning to sabotage your final trial." "If I run, they win," Tom replied. "Everything we proved about humans and Nick's working together would be dismissed." Before Lisa could argue, another figure appeared at the door. "Dawn. Good, you're both here. Mother needs to see you immediately." They followed Dawn through twisting corridors until they reached a secure chamber deep within the floating city. Matriarch Rose and Collector James were waiting, along with several other Nicks Tom hadn't met. "The situation has become complicated," Matriarch Rose announced. "Tom's performance in the energy compatibility trial has caused quite a stir. Some see it as an opportunity for progress. Others," she paused, "see it as a threat to their power." "The energy farms are extremely profitable," Collector James explained. "The Conservative Council controls most of them. If humans were seen as partners rather than food sources, they'd lose their power," Lisa finished. "Precisely," a new voice said. An elderly Nick stepped forward, his skin a deep midnight purple. "I am Elder Max, head of the Science Council. What we witnessed yesterday could revolutionize our society. A partnership with humanity could solve our energy sustainability crisis." Dawn crossed her arms. "The Conservatives are planning to rig the spiritual resonance trial. They'll make it lethal." "Can we stop them?" Tom asked. Matriarch Rose shook her head. "Not directly. They have too much influence. But perhaps," she looked thoughtful, "we can beat them at their own game." The next hour was spent in intense planning. Elder Max explained the mechanics of the spiritual resonance trial, while Collector James modified Tom's protective suit. Dawn, surprisingly, offered valuable insights into the Conservatives' tactics. "Why are you helping?" Tom finally asked her during a quiet moment. Dawn was silent for a moment. "Because you proved me wrong," she admitted. "I thought humans were just food. But watching you work with our energy fields, seeing how you actually made them stronger. Maybe change isn't always bad." Their planning was interrupted by a chime indicating dawn was approaching. The final trial would begin soon. "Remember," Matriarch Rose said as they prepared to leave, "the Conservatives will expect us to try to protect you. They'll be watching us closely." "Which is why I'll be the one to help him," Dawn announced, surprising everyone. "They know how much I opposed him. They won't suspect me." Lisa hugged her sister. "Thank you." As they walked to the trial chamber, Tom felt the weight of more than just his own future riding on his success. This was about changing an entire society's view of humanity. "One last thing," Dawn said before they entered the chamber. "The Conservatives don't know that humans have one advantage in a spiritual resonance trial. You can actually feed energy back into the system. They'll be expecting you to fail when the resonance field drains you. But instead, I'll make it stronger," Tom finished, finally understanding. Dawn nodded. "Don't prove me wrong about helping you, human." She paused, then added with the ghost of a smile, "Brother." They stepped into the trial chamber, where the Conservative Council waited with poorly concealed anticipation. They thought they were about to witness the end of a threat to their power. Instead, they were about to witness the beginning of a new era in human-Nix relations, provided Tom survived the next hour. The final trial chamber was smaller than the others, shaped like a perfect sphere. In its center floated a single massive crystal, pulsing with deep purple light. The conservative council members watched from their elevated positions, their faces masks of false concern. The spiritual resonance trial, the lead conservative announced, will test the very essence of your being. Few survive. Fewer succeed. Tom stepped onto the floating platform before the crystal. Dawn had explained what the conservatives had planned. They would overload the crystal, creating a feedback loop that should, theoretically, drain him completely. "Begin," Matriarch Rose commanded, her face carefully neutral. The crystal flared to life. Tom felt the pull immediately, far stronger than anything he'd experienced before. The conservatives had indeed modified it, making it pull at not just his energy, but at his very life force. But they had made one critical mistake. Instead of fighting the drain, Tom opened himself completely to it, just as he had in the previous trial. The crystal's purple light began to take on that familiar golden tinge where it connected with his energy. "Something's wrong," one of the conservatives muttered, adjusting controls frantically. "He's not depleting." Tom remembered everything. Lisa's love, Dawn's unexpected support, the possibility of changing an entire society for the better. Each memory, each emotion, fed into the crystal, making it pulse brighter and brighter. "Impossible," the lead conservative shouted. "The crystal should be draining him." "No." Elder Max stepped forward, his scientific instruments beeping rapidly. "He's not being drained. He's transforming the energy. The crystal is resonating with him, creating a perpetual energy loop." The crystal's light had now turned completely gold with purple swirls, filling the chamber with its glow. The conservatives' control panels began to spark and overload. "Stop this," the lead conservative demanded. "This is not how the trial is supposed to work." "Actually," Dawn spoke up, "the trial tests spiritual resonance. There's nothing in our ancient laws that says what that resonance should look like." The crystal pulsed one final time, and then the light stabilized into a perfect blend of purple and gold. Tom stood straight, tired but smiling, as the energy field settled into a harmonious balance. "Trial completed," Matriarch Rose announced, unable to hide her satisfaction. "And passed by all traditional measures." But the lead conservative spluttered. "This changes everything. Our whole system. Perhaps it's time for our system to evolve." Collector James said firmly, "The evidence is undeniable. Humans are not mere food sources. They are potential partners who could help ensure our species' survival." The conservative council members began to argue, but their protests were drowned out by excited chatter from the scientific observers and younger Nix in attendance. The crystal's transformation had been witnessed by too many to be denied or covered up. Lisa rushed to Tom's side, helping him step down from the platform. "You did it," she beamed. "And you exposed the conservatives' plot without them even realizing it." Dawn approached them, shaking her head in amazement. "Well, brother, it seems I completely misjudged your species." She smiled, a real warm smile this time. "Welcome to the family." Matriarch Rose stepped forward, raising her hands for silence. "Today we have witnessed more than just a successful trial. We have seen the potential for a new future, one where Nix and humans work together, growing stronger through cooperation rather than exploitation." Elder Max nodded enthusiastically. "The energy signature from the transformed crystal. If we could replicate this on a larger scale, our energy sustainability problems would be solved." "There will be changes," Collector James added, "but change brings opportunity." The conservative council members were quietly slipping away, their power base already crumbling as more Nix realized the possibilities ahead. "So," Tom said to Lisa, "does this mean I passed the meeting the parents test?" Lisa laughed and kissed him, causing small sparkles of gold and purple energy to dance around them. With flying colors. Though I think you did more than that. You just helped start a revolution. A peaceful one, Dawn added, built on understanding and mutual benefit. She paused, then added with a smirk, but if you ever hurt my sister, I still know how to manipulate energy fields in very unpleasant ways. Tom grinned, noted. So, when's the wedding? The resulting burst of surprised laughter from the Nix family echoed through the chamber, accompanied by a bright pulse from the crystal that could be seen throughout the floating city, a signal of the changes to come as two species began a new chapter together.